You else.
Rogue tactics already. Sorry guys, I'm in a good mood. This is the first time in like 11 days that I'm not sick, so I'm a little bit more lighthearted today.
All right, and start.
Yeah, that's what you get to look forward to, Vladis, is you know, the baby, you don't get to sleep, but then when they get older to where they go to school, you also don't sleep because they're sick all the time. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a lot to look forward to, man.
It's easier now than it was when they were newborns, but it's still like you don't know when they're gonna get sick, so it's not something you rely on.
Yeah, our 7-year-old doesn't get as sick as much as I thought she would or whatever, but
oh, that's good.
I don't really get sick that often myself. My wife gets more sick than I do. I'm usually not a sickly person.
Yeah,
if I'm sick, it's like I'm like death. Like I feel like absolute shit and I can't do anything.
Yeah, so I had this coming because since about August, I haven't gotten sick since August. And like everything's been good. My wife's had a couple things. My girls have gotten sick, and like, you know, I'm doing the good husbandly thing where she's like, "Oh, I don't feel very good. I don't feel good, very good." And I'm like, "I feel great. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm not sick at all." You know, just joking around, giving her shit and everything. And I ended up getting sick, and it wasn't a big deal, just like a lot of congestion and everything. But then that congestion turned into an ear infection, which was pretty cool. And then the girls gave me pink eye as well, and so I got both in the same week at the same time. And I don't have backup glasses. I just wear contacts, and so I had to take my contacts out, so I couldn't see, and I also couldn't hear out of one ear because it was perpetually stuffed. It was a good time. It was a really good time.
Right.
So, but I deserved all of it because I, you know, gave my wife shit for being sick. So.
All right. HD's in here.
What's up, HD?
I'm still on YouTube and I don't see the stream up yet.
Mine's up. Let me take a peek. Okay, mine looks like it's up. Welcome in, everybody. Good to see you. All right.
There we go. I don't know what the hell that was all about.
All right. I think we're good to go.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm just changing the thumbnail on YouTube, and I'll be ready.
All right. We are good. I forgot I couldn't post it in AOC's Discord because I forgot I posted a video.
Oh, yeah.
Here, I can post it in 1 second.
Richie's in the building. Vlad has showed up. Let's go. Welcome on in, everybody. I wonder if we should do like a start off with something a little bit lighter, or then get into the topic at hand.
Up to you guys.
Or I mean, we got a lot of like forum posts and everything like that, but maybe we should go ahead and like get into it, especially for people watching at a later date. And who knows, maybe this will last a long time, and then at the end we get into those. How you doing, Yield? Welcome on in, Carrera. He said, "Nah, bring the beef."
I think this will be a fun discussion because I haven't really thought about it. Like, I mean, Vladis, you said it last week as well. Like, this is not, like Steven said, this isn't going to happen. This is just like a thought experiment for fun.
Yes.
Like, and so it's fun to think about, like, okay, what would they have to do and what would this entail? And
well,
yeah. Wait, before we do all that,
Sorry.
One, to piggyback off of what else said, so let me preface this, which I'm sure you guys were just about to do. This discussion, one, respectful, and you guys be respectful. Two, this is a matter of bringing up it's more of a philosophical debate. This is not something that's going to happen in Ashes of Creation. We know Steven's vision. We know what we don't have to worry about. We trust him to stick to his guns, and this is the game that we're going to be presented. This is not an advocacy for one way or the other. This is more so a philosophical debate, like I said. And the reason for this, and the reason I think it's important, because I saw a lot of people like, what's the point of talking about it? Steven's never going to change it, or, this and that. And the reason is, what we got to remember as the core Ashes of Creation community is that once this game gets more popular, or once it comes to launch, or come Alpha 2, this debate, this question is going to keep happening like it's already happened, right? People are going to ask for these PVE servers. This is going to be a topic that always will keep coming up, and we'll have this as a reference. Yeah. And I still think it's an important conversation to have, because we see that there's a lot of people that are on each side of the fences presented today. So that's the main reason for this. And for today's stream, I will be acting more as a mediator for the most part, and Else and Vlad will do most of the debate, and I'll obviously provide my takes as well, and I'll be chatting with you guys in chat, so as to not interrupt them too much. Of course, if you guys bring up some stuff in chat, I may say, hey, what do you think about what HD, or how do you feel about Richie wanting to throw a table at people, and wanting Vladis to throw a table, et cetera, et cetera. So there'll be a little bit of that. So but before two things before we get into that. First off, welcome to Voices of Vera, episode 30. Episode 30. Man. Amazing. Episode 30. I'm Nice Gaming with Is There No One Else every week. And we have a very special guest, Vladis. You guys know Vladis from last week and from everywhere, especially if you're part of the Ashes of Creation community. And today we also have our most special guest, perhaps, which is you, the Voices of Vera. So welcome on in, and we plan on having some fun today. And that's it for me. Got the long legal statement out the way. Oh yeah. Also, something about this being a work in progress MMO and stuff.
Yes. The other thing I want to piggyback on top of this as well is like Nice said, this is a thought experiment. This is not something I've thought of. Vladis, I really value your opinion. I think you're going to have some really good points of view. And like we said, as we get into Alpha 2, as we get into the betas, this drumbeat will be more steady. And I've always come on this channel and I've always been, hey guys, I don't know everything about this game. I am not an expert. I am a person that's passionate about this. I have my point of view. I have my opinion. Nice. I know you agree with me, Vladis. I'm sure you feel the same way. I think I'm going to learn a lot from what Vladis is going to say, and I hopefully will provide some to his perspective as well. Because we have this podcast. Vladis, you're on live streams 2, 3, 4 days a week. I'm sure once Alpha 2 kicks in, you're going to get this question a lot as well. And this will help just generate conversation for newer players that will be coming in off of the hype. All of us that are here right now, we kind of know, but we don't have everything. And so it'd be good to have everything. So
yeah. Right. Do you want me to start off?
Oh, yeah.
Want to preface what I said last week before we ended.
The cliffhanger.
I just want to mention that I said Ashes of Creation could do PVE servers. Not saying that I want PVE servers. All I am saying, or all I did say, was they could do PVE servers. It would have to be radically changed to the current design of the game. Absolutely. If they were just to basically put in the current system and just not turn on PvP, it would be a shit show. There'd be many systems that would be so trivialized and completely terrible. But my whole point is, and there's several other ripcords that we did mention on the last episode.
Yeah.
That I would rather them do than do PvE servers. One of them being going to other countries like South Korea and Japan. The whole thing, and the whole reason why I think this PvE debate is what it is is because if we could ever imagine a dilemma where corruption or PvP killing was so bad that we had 20,000, 15,000 people concurrently playing Ashes of Creation 6 months or a year in. So are we literally going to be in that point, of course, this is hypothetical, and be so hard-headed or so, this game can never be PvE, we would rather have the game shut down entirely rather than add in a more generalized system like a PvE server that would have radical changes to it to allow allow more population, allow more of the general MMO populace to come through. That to me is like a point that I think a lot of the hardcore people would probably say, well, then just let Ashes fail because it already failed. I just disagree with that. Like, ultimately. And the other thing is that I know we were mentioning PvE servers last week, not to be confused, in the sense of Alpha 2, right? But I think me and Els just want to have a more broader conversation of just PvE servers, and I think why people are going to ask to the moon for PvE servers, and it happened with the Lucky Ghost video. It's gonna happen again when Alpha 2 goes live, and it's gonna keep happening.
Yes.
And again, it's not saying Steven has to do this, but I'm telling you, they could. There's a lot of the systems they could change radically in design to make them be a more PvE convenient feature. They could absolutely do it. Now, are they? Probably not. I would say there's more of a chance of the Quinfall being a legit MMO. I mean, there's more of a chance of that happening. There's more of a chance of, not the Last of, was it the Last of Us?
Yes.
Or no, the day before. No, the day before.
My bad.
There's more of a chance of the day before 2, the MMO Re-Reckoning coming out before they add PvE servers. Like, I just want to be very, very clear in that. But to literally say that it can't be done is just, to me, a very false statement. They could do it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, actually, go ahead, Els. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to talk in detail. So, I mean, it's not just Vladis and I talking and like having a conversation. It's also like, hey, you guys are on the forums as well. You guys are on YouTube as well. You guys are on Twitter, Twitch, whatever. Like this, if we can have more examples as to why this is existing, and if we don't have a good answer for why it doesn't exist, like Vladis is saying, then we need to reevaluate, like, why can't it happen? Right. And I think that's the conversation that you want to have. You want to be able to say, like, I'm not a type of person that lives in absolutes. Like, we have to have it this way. It's like, hey, it can exist this way, or it can exist this way. It's just how much is it going to take to do that? And then is that sort of investment worth it? And that I think that's the way to go about looking at this. And obviously there are a lot of players that want to experience a new MMO without the risk of a gank box, when we're going to talk quite a bit about that as well. And we'll just wait and see which one creates a better, more enjoyable environment in this discussion, I think. So
yeah. Very true. Let's catch up with the voices of air. Just a couple of key comments I wanted to highlight. Jamie Chaos. Oh, by the way, shout out to them. Jamie and Annie, great show. I was actually on you guys' stream the other day. Always like to catch you guys stream. Very good job. Jamie said PvE servers would ruin the game completely. You'd have to change every major system. I think this is a very good point, because so many systems are tied into PvX, the risk versus reward thing that's tied into everything. We're going to be bringing up a lot of points similar to that. I'm sure. I'll let Els cover those. Annie says, what would be the appeal of I like this one. What would be the appeal of a PvE Ashes server compared to other comparable MMOs? And then Snow Elf responded to Lacey saying, not accidentally getting tagged in PvP with corruption.
Yep. I mean, it's like I said, in the current design, Ashes of Creation wouldn't work in a PvE environment, a complete PvE, casual teddy bear environment. But I think more to the point is, if we ever got to the point where this game, we always say this game isn't for everybody, but to the extent of what? Like if Ken Intrepid have 50,000 people worldwide playing Ashes of Creation and able to stay afloat with that as a new company, is that feasible? Is that actually feasible? On top of microtransaction purchases and everything like that. If that's the case, if they can, then honestly, we don't need to change a damn thing. Everybody could hate Ashes of Creation because, again, the majority of people hate New World, and there's still, I think, almost like 50,000 people playing that game, but they belong to a major AAA billion-dollar company.
Yeah.
So let's take things in perspective here, right? I think if New World came from an indie studio and that was their very first game that launched and everything happened the way it happened, I don't think New World would be online right now. I honestly don't. It's just New World did what it did because it came from a big AAA studio, billion-dollar company. And again, I think ultimately that's what every passionate Ashes fan would want to know, right? Is like, what is the bottom line for you guys? Is how many people can be playing concurrently, like paying that monthly sub, buying microtransactions? Because I think if Steven ever had to do something hard where the game goes live and then a year into it, 50,000 isn't enough. Like, are we just going to say to ourselves, well, I guess we just better pack up and hope for the next MMO? Is that what we're going to do? Or are we going to try to think of some way to either appease to a broader audience, or what I would suggest is to try to get Ashes of Creation in other countries, which I think is a way easier thing to do with like localization, translating, all that other stuff.
Yeah, you brought up some really good points there. I'm glad you brought up New World because I was going to do the same thing. It is one of the more recent MMO releases that we've had that started off with a ton of hype, and due to some things that have happened, and I don't want to narrow it down to, oh, it was the flagging system that created this issue. It was a culmination of a bunch of different systems, and it was a cascade effect, in my opinion, for New World, to where it created a world that was kind of bland, dull, not very fun to play in, a very long grind process to get to end game, and a not very enjoyable PVE world experience. That's why you see right now, I mean, if you're paying attention to what they're doing, they're redoing the main story quest line right now. And to Vladis's point, would a smaller indie studio be able to go back and say, hey, we're going to rehash our entire main story quest line all over again, right, because it wasn't good enough the first time? And just rewrite these things. And I think that's a good argument that they probably, if it was anybody else, if they were a smaller company, they'd probably just cut their losses and say, hey, this is what we have. We're going to try and monetize the shit out of what we have and just hope we can get profitable and break even and go from there. And so, yeah, I thought that was a very good point.
Okay. And the way we'll try to do this, you guys back and forth like you do. Once, like, I guess Else has his rebuttal, I'll try to get chat in there if need be. Couple more things. Again, I want to get to comment from Richie SH. Great content on YouTube. I'm sure you guys know about him if you know about us. He's Richie. How do I describe him? He's that bird. He talks about what's that MMO he liked? I don't know. Anyways, the only way it would work without a revamp is if PvP objectives that flag you as a combatant still existed, but you couldn't PvP outside of that. But then it isn't exactly a PvE server. So Vladis, how and I know you can see it from both perspectives, but as far as a PvE server, I think for the sake of conversation going forward, we have two classifications and we can just talk about both simultaneously. But there's one scenario where you keep the PvP objective-based things like Chaos was talking about with the node sieges. I'm assuming node sieges will still be a thing. Like you'll still have caravan PvP because it's objective-based and you'll still keep that. So, and then you have an extreme scenario 2, where there's just no PvP. Well, there's just no corruption, excuse me. There's just no PKing outside of objective-based PvP, i.e. node sieges, i.e. Caravan runs.
Guild wars,
yeah, that kind of stuff. So basically you're just getting rid of that corruption system, and for lack of a better word, you're getting rid of PKing, like I don't want to say grief kills, but PKing. But I think that quick response to that.
I just think it really comes down to what the people want, because again, millions of people, and I say that not hyperbolically, but millions of people will play Ashes of Creation. Whether it comes to the live launch, I think this game will be insanely popular. But like I said in last episode, if Alpha 2 keeps, or if it goes, and there's a lot of the people that are very passionate about this game, because again, I think we are a huge minority. I
Yes.
want to be very clear about that.
Agreed.
The current Ashes community is the minority right now. We haven't even seen the majority of what people will think about this game yet. So right now, that's why when you see podcasts throughout the Ashes space, you're seeing a lot of people agreeing with your opinion, because we are kind of an echo chamber of agreement, right? We all agree. We all love the
We know what we signed up for.
Yes, we know what we signed up for. We're all in on it. The general mashes, they do know about Ashes. Everyone's mostly seen the Lazy Peon video, but it's out of sight, out of mind for them. Like the game's not out. And again, once they realize how much PvP is in this game, then it's going to either be an issue of, if there's even too much, if I can't feel safe going out, then it's going to be one of those things where, like I said, it could be a viral video. It could be anything that Alpha 2 basically does, from the point of start of Alpha 2 to the end of Alpha 2 going into the live launch, where we could potentially have 200,000 people on day one of Ashes of Creation's live launch, because they all see it in Alpha 2 and they're like, I'm going to be part of that shit. I'm not gonna go and just be killed over and over for hours, and I can't even level to level 3 because that's all everyone's doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, again, you have to understand, we're from like a casual MMO goer. You know what I mean? And again, I think a lot of us that are watching, a lot of us that are content creators, we are not the norm. We are not the normie that people usually talk about. We're literally content creators for a game that doesn't even exist. Like, we had to be. You have
what
to be
are we doing?
You have to be a pretty passionate individual to do that. Like, you just have to.
So, that's actually something I don't know if we talked about it. I think we talked about it last episode. I know I was talking about it in Discord recently, or actually no, I was talking about it on TGF Tavern's recent content creator summit, I think. But like, I was talking about protecting the Asmongold's of the world instead of stream sniping them, stuff like that. And we talked about it on previous episodes of the Voices of Air, where it's just like, my fear is bad publicity from streamers for Ashes. People that's casually looking in and they come in and out of nowhere for Alpha 2 launch or actual game launch, and they have a bad experience. They log in, they're trying to do their crafting, they're trying to venture into the world, and some guy, or it could be multiple different people, are just PKing them before they get out there, and then they post this video like, don't play this MMO, or it just paints it as this full loot, just getting killed all the time. They won't really go over corruption, just paint this bad picture, this negative press. And that's one of my worst fears. And that's one of the things I feel could be Ashes of Creation's downfall. That's something I talk about a lot. And that's because, like you said, we are in the minority. Not everyone is aware that, like Vlada said, they'll try it, they'll have that experience, or they'll see their favorite YouTuber have that experience and like, oh no, that PvP MMO, and just that's gonna be the title, that PvP MMO, and they're gonna paint this picture. Annie says they hate New World because they deviated from their initial PvP plan and didn't adjust their systems to support PvE, which crashed the market. That's why New World's economy, like their economy doesn't make sense. But there's so many reasons that PvP kind of helps contribute to the economy and adds value to any or all resources, but we'll get more into that later as well. Welcome on in, everybody.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Yeah.
Like, the other thing that really worries me is the model that was based upon for Ashes of Creation, Arcage 2 and Lineage 2, which aren't really thriving today. You know what I mean? And if you look at any game right now that is completely PvP centric, there isn't a PvE only element to that game, right? Like World of Warcraft has both PvE and PvP.
True.
Everything is a hybrid. If you look at everything that is just PvP, they have dwindling numbers, like 10,000, 20,000 concurrent or less. So you look at Crowfall, Albion, like what other PvP MMO that's just PvP? Like, they all do poor numbers.
Yeah. Now, Arctic and Jamie says Arcage died to pay to win, not the PvP. I don't know much about Lineage, its downfall, its history, or everything like that. But yeah, I know ArcAge was more so of a pay to win. It's kind of hard to find good comparisons. People always talk about like these PvP MMOs don't last because PvP people don't like PvP. I don't think it's that
I
So
don't
why
think
is
that simple.
why is World of Warcraft thriving then? They have pay to win too. There's the WoW. You can literally buy gold. What when makes the difference between WoW's PvP, which WoW has some of the best combat comparatively to ArcAge, which also has PvP? Like, you know what I mean? Like, did ArcAge just not get the kind of pull? Probably, right? Because World of Warcraft is more of a household name
Yeah,
when
yeah.
people mention an MMO than ArcAge is. So yes, I think a lot of the Korean MMOs. This is why I think Korean MMOs fail in the North than here in America, is because of the pay to win. So, and again, there's so many stipulations. There isn't a right or wrong answer. Like, all I'm trying to do is give you guys an understanding of what happens when they try to do a PvP MMO here in North America. It doesn't do well. And probably the more reason why they try to monetize it more with like a pay to win thing is because they're trying to get money to be able to stay alive. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's hard.
I think in the same vein that you can talk about ArcAge and Lineage, games that came out 20 years ago or somewhere around there, games that came out a long time ago, and they failed for a multitude of reasons. Some people will say PvP, some people will say the pay to win aspect, some people will say, hey, they just kind of neglected it. It made it too much of a kill box. Like, it could have been good with these tweaks, which is what Steven believes, which is why he's coming out with Ashes of Creation. I look at other current games, and I look at the Elder Scrolls Online, which is also struggling because they're trying to cater to everybody. And because they're trying to cater to everybody, they can't balance for everybody, and it kind of leaves like a husk of the game. You look at what New World has done, where New World, like, was it Jamie that just said that nice? I forget the commenter, but basically like Annie, I'm sorry. I apologize. But where Annie was saying that they had a PvP focused, more survival style MMO, and in order to cater to a larger audience, they switched to a toggle, which was a huge change. Now, I'm not saying that they wouldn't have failed by having a full-on PvP system, because they would have. They didn't have enough stopgaps in place. Like, that's why they made the change. But when they made the change, they didn't look at adjusting the world in a way to make it engaging and fun for other people. And so I think you see it both ways. You see, I mean, World of Warcraft is its own thing. I remember 10 years ago, it had its own, it had its own following on a mainstream media scale as far as how big it was. Millions of people were playing it for a reason. And so they still do a good, I've heard lots of people say that the balancing in PvP for WoW is great, and they want to play over there because they honestly do a very good job in that department. They're constantly coming out with content, and you look at other games, and like, part of the reason I'm not still playing ESO is performance and balance related stuff. Like, it's just not enjoyable to play. The game doesn't work properly enough for me to want to play it. If it did, I would still play. And so I think a lot of us are in these situations to where you look at games where they have PvP, but they're ignoring it, neglecting it, not making it. And then you have this negative feedback loop of, well, we're ignoring this thing, so people aren't playing it, and therefore people don't enjoy MMO PvP because nobody's playing our MMO PvP. It's like, no, not necessarily. It just, people don't want to play your MMO PvP because you're not giving it the attention it deserves. And you're not making a fun, engaging experience. And I think we've seen it happen a lot with, World of Warcraft with their survival. You're one death and you're like their hardcore scene. You see it happen with these hardcore survival games. Elden Ring winning Game of the Year 2 years ago, showing that people want a challenge in games. And now all of a sudden, like, a challenge, it's no surprise that when this Kickstarter MMO Ashes of Creation came out and they're like, hey, we want to do this, we want to create a challenge, we want to do this, it's no wonder that it broke Kickstarter records and generated a huge following. And we believe that there's going to be 200,000-ish players at Alpha 2 launch to test out this game, because people they don't want the cookie cutter of what currently exists. They want something different, because at this point it's like, okay, I could try this style bread in a bunch of different things, but it's still the same thing. It's still getting ignored. It's still getting heavily monetized. It's annoying, and it's the same team that I just no longer have faith in. I'm going to look towards something else.
I mean, the other thing too is that because Intrepid is such a brand new company, and I want them to succeed very much so, they need some kind of a backup plan in case things don't go their way. Every other company that has come out didn't have a backup plan. They didn't have a way to pivot, to shift, to get more people playing their game. They just didn't do what the players wanted. And I know Intrepid does listen a lot to their base, but again, their base loves their direction. We all love what they're going to do. What happens if it doesn't work? They need a plan B.
Should PVE servers be the backup plan?
To me, no. Again, I think, again, this is where I feel like I want Steven to adhere to his initial premise design and foundational philosophy. And again, like, I just don't know. Like, this, it's not, I don't have Steven on the phone to be like, hey, do you have a backup plan in case things fail? Like, you know, because again, that's why I think other countries would be a better way to, like I said, and I said this last podcast, I don't care if there's 10,000 people playing Ashes of Creation here in North America. If we have 3 million playing in South Korea, 800,000 in Japan, and 10,000 in North America, I could give a shit, you know, personally. Because then that means we have millions of people worldwide. And again, that's not just, you know, there's other countries Ashes is going to go in, not just those three. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, all I'm saying is, like, I don't care how many people are in the West. I just want Intrepid to get money. But what happens if worldwide we're at 50, 40, 30,000 people playing the game? Now, those people are super happy. They're like, golly, this game is so great. This game is so good. But everyone else who looks at it and being like, yeah, but I don't want to get ganked. Like, then what do we do? Like, what's the next step?
So based off that statement and kind of in your opening statement, do you feel Intrepid should be open to adjusting the corruption system, PKing, considering PVE optional servers to stay alive if, let's say, 6 months after launch, or let's say 8 months to a year after launch, the population is in decline and we're looking at maybe even less than, I don't know, maybe New World numbers, or just not as good as it could be? Do you think, and I mean, I think we all want Intrepid to be open to feedback and be responsive to change. Thank you for subscribing, Virus. I think we all want them to be adaptable. Do you think if the PVE player base, do you think come Alpha 2, actual full-on launch, if the PVE people that's advocating for these PVE servers are like a really strong opinion, all the big streamers get behind it, there's a petition on Reddit, et cetera, and a year after launch, the game is on a population decline, and they see that the player base wants these PVE servers, they're tired of getting PKing, they want to keep the node siegers, they want to keep all that, would you advocate, or would you want the PVE servers if it means keeping the game alive? No. Would it be worth it?
No, I after looking at it and thinking through things, and we're going to talk about this more, I think there's so many other things that they can do within the system itself to make adjustments without remaking the wheel. We're going to go into detail on this quite a bit, but essentially, asking for a PVE server is rewriting the game from scratch. In a lot of different systems, it is adjusting a lot of different things, and we can go into detail on that later. But the point is like, we joke like, oh, Ashes of Creation release 2030, 2035, 2047. Like, if you rewrite and do a PVE server to the detail that they want to do, to where they want to have, like, it's not me, but a lot of people play MMOs for the economy, right? They play the MMO because they enjoy the economic aspect. They want to participate in valuable artisanship, and they want to feel like their player loops have value. If Intrepid wants to assign that value to an ESO to an Ashes of Creation PVE server, they're going to have to go through and test, balance, and reincorporate just about every single design system that they have, and that's just going to take time. And I think there's just so many better ways to make tweaks and adjustments in order to make it more, in order to potentially draw in a crowd that enjoys the game more. That's my perspective.
I just want to answer Jamie's question. He said, Vlad, is your metric of success only based on it entering the mainstream? No, that's not what I think at all. I think, again, it's about numbers. It's about money. I don't care if it enters into the mainstream here or somewhere else or whatever. I don't care if Ashes of Creation is like the 50th most popular game here in North America. I don't care if it's making money for Intrepid. Like, that's what I care about. I want them to be in the positive. I don't want them to just break even. And how they do that, if they do that by going into other countries that is not currently on the docket, like I said, South Korea, Japan, China, and I know sometimes you have to make concessions going into those kind of countries, but I'd rather them do that than be like, well, we put it out all the countries, we're not making money, we're in the negative, it's 3 years into after the launch, we're thinking about shutting down because we can't do it with our current subscriber base. I don't care if it enters into the mainstream. Like, my whole thing is that I don't want the game to die. I don't think anybody wants the game to die.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, companies should have a backup plan. They should have a way to pivot into, hey, our current design isn't working with the current subscriber base we have. How can we get more people? Like, that's basically what I'm saying, because no other company has able to do that. They just shut down. Those companies just shut down. WildStar's not there. Crowfall shut down. Like, all these games just shut down. I don't want Ashes to fall into that thing. And I even said, I've said this as a joke offhandedly, I would rather them make a pay-to-win mobile game that is like a Ashes of Creation spinoff from Intrepid to just get more money generated, like, and have that be a pay-to-win thing, or whatever. Monetize the hell out of that mobile game and have Ashes of Creation still be non-pay-to-win, just cosmetics based the way it is. Like I said, there's many ways to skin the cat. It's just, I think all of us want the current format and design to thrive. But again, we're all in this hopium. We're all in this thing that, oh my God, this is like the best thing ever. But again, like, I honestly feel that, and I've talked to many people. I said, would you play ArcheAge if there was no pay to win? And I talked to a lot of my friends about this, and many of them said no.
Interesting.
They're just not interested. And so I know a lot of you guys that did play ArcheAge would be like, man, this game would be so successful it didn't have pay to win. I don't think it would be that much successful, to be honest.
Oh.
So
yeah, my kind of perspective looking at all this is, I mean, this is about 8-9 months ago now. Steven said that when the game goes live, they're going to have 100K plus concurrent subscribers. And I think we can agree that it's in the 200K range or more. And this is before we get any mainstream appeal. Nice and I have talked about this. We know out of the gate, like, I am very confident in saying out of the gate, we are going to see Pal World level numbers of players initially. Baldur's Gate 3 level numbers. We're going to see 900,000 plus players attempting to try the game. And the first feedback is going to be very important. And that's going to be their perspective. And if what Steven is saying is true, and I have no reason to not believe him, if they have 100,000, 200,000 concurrent subscribers right out of the gate and they're ready to go, your main goal is like, yeah, you should be trying like bring up more media attention to draw in more players. You are an indie studio. You're not going to have the same draw of like a bigger company. But if you already have that puts you on top of just about every other MMO in the space right now. And this isn't a size competition, guys. Like, size isn't everything. Trust me. That's what I try to tell my wife every single day, that size isn't everything. But I mean, sometimes I succeed and sometimes I don't. But the point is they're already in a situation where it's like, well, why reevaluate anything until Alpha 2? Why reevaluate anything until Beta 1, Beta 2, until the game goes live? And they're going to tweak and hone, and they're going to resonate with the current player base to make sure that they're going to have the best game possible for these players. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that don't like it. I know people that aren't fans of Elden Ring. Elden Ring was Game of the Year. I know people one of my really good friends doesn't like Baldur's Gate 3 because he didn't like the combat. It won Game of the Year.
The turn-based, yeah.
Yep. He didn't like the turn-based combat. He didn't like how basically you kind of walk around and like the storytelling just wasn't his thing. He wanted a little bit more combat. And so just because it's Game of the Year doesn't mean appeal to everybody. Like, this game will not appeal to everybody, but I think you already see, like, there's a lot of people interested in this game, and we just need to really just have the conversation as to what they could tweak, what they could adjust. And I think we're going to have that come Alpha 2.
Let me get in here really quick, guys. So a lot of fun things in chat. Most recently, I want to say, hold on, where is the comment at? Jamie said, exactly, if you look at the Google search history, Ashes isn't even a blip. Very true. Makashi just said something on YouTube that's very interesting. He said there should at least be a PVE/PvP toggle switch, because I do think the population of people who like MMOs for the relaxing go on a quest and do some crafting.
That would be a death knell. That would be a death nail in the coffin. Seriously.
I think we're all gonna agree. Third person is there no one else? I think we're all gonna agree that that is something that I think other MMOs. I think New World's the easiest example, right? And theirs was poorly implemented. You could tell it's like a last second decision, and like I think Annie was saying earlier, you could tell it wasn't there. They had to flip their whole design. Exactly, Jamie, and it's hard to yeah, exactly, Nemesis, and it's hard to really respond to those suggestions without sounding negative or dismissing of someone's opinions. And like I said, I think we all have been very respectful here. Let's all respect each other's opinions. And when I for now, I think that one is just like, and I hate saying this to people. I ain't gonna say I hate, because I will admit I'm guilty of this, of telling people like, hey, go play that other game, or hey, you have other games that exist. But I know it sounds like a mean or simple rebuttal, but it's so true. We have so many MMOs with everything that people are asking for, and there are some MMOs like a New World with the toggle system where you can look like, okay, maybe that's why it failed. You know, here for the discourse. Yeah, thank you, Makashi. Awesome. Yeah, I just don't think it really works. Richie SH says, I hate toggles. While going to toggle instead of PvP servers killed it for me. And I don't know if this is on you guys' subjects to tackle later, but I'll just briefly touch it because I don't want to take away anyone's points. What happens with the toggle system, especially for me, from what I, out of ignorance, is you need incentive. You need an incentive for someone to TGFT. The tavern, the tavern's raiding. Everybody's here. Everybody's here.
All right, everybody's now we can start. Let's go.
All right. Everybody that just raided in, everyone that just raided in, all of you guys that just raided in from the tavern, you guys are obligated to be on Vlad's side. That's the rules. I didn't make them up. Okay, I kind of made them up.
On my side.
Oh, welcome on in, everybody. Thank you guys so much for being here. Armored Monkey, thank you for subscribing. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for the subscribing with Prime. One thing, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, incentive. If there's no incentive, like, you need a heck of an XP boost for someone to risk flagging for PvP while they go do their crafting, while they go do their gathering. Yep. Oh, you're gonna yield 10% more resources while chopping wood. That's not enough. I'd rather stay safe, because if someone kills me, then I got 0 wood. I'd rather just not get that 10%. So you got to have incentive. And then when it comes to balancing that incentive and how that affects the economy and how many people actually choose to take that risk, now you're making that risk versus reward ideology and Ashes an option, and I don't think that really works. Before I bring up my next talking point for you guys, I only have like 2 here. I'm just let you guys freestyle. Yep. Did you have anything about the toggle system else?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question on how good you are at math. Nice. What's 10% more of 0?
Carry to 1. 0.
Exactly. So there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with a toggle system. A toggle system can function well. The problem with the toggle system is incentivizing people to toggle, because if you don't incentivize them to do so, then it doesn't exist. Just because it's a system doesn't mean that, like, I can have high definition on my MMO, and I can have I can look at all the cool water and everything, but if the game doesn't function, it's not actually a feature that exists for me in the game, right? Right. That's how I look at it. And so if a toggle exists, but there's no incentivization to toggle, does it actually exist? And I would contend that it's a no. And that's one of the bigger issues with New World as a whole, is sometimes you'll get on some new start servers where PvP will be freaking awesome. And it's awesome for like a week. And then everybody gets in their own way and they're like, hey, I don't want 10% more I don't need XP gain anymore. I'm at max level. There's less incentivization for end game level players to be flagged all the time. And so they don't flag all the time anymore. And so then you don't have that open world conflict anymore. And then it's like, okay, well, what do you do now? And that's their biggest issue.
Nice. Nice.
I mean, can I ask you guys a question? Like, if it was the option, right? Like, just as a two-sided coin.
Sure.
If Ashes of Creation was dying,
Mm.
would you rather them just shut down or add PVE servers?
I think there's other things they can do, but between the two, I'd rather have them do PVE servers. But I think there's so many other steps that they can take before.
Oh, we established that there is.
Yeah.
100%. But I'm just saying, if it was between those two, and I think that's ultimately what I am saying. There are definitely other measures that I'd rather them take. But I think even all of us that have, went into the Kickstarter, if we saw Intrepid bleeding and we saw them not getting the money, or we saw the game subscribers were dwindling, or maybe there was just a shit ton of Lucky Ghost videos that went viral, whatever the case was. Because again, a lot of the big streamers aren't really PvPers. Let's kind of go behind the veil a bit, right? Like Asmongold has been very open about him hating PvP.
Yep.
So he's going to go into Ashes. He's going to leave his review. Do you think it's going to be glowing? Do you think it's going to be good, bad? Like, what do you think? I think it's going to be kind of in the middle, but I think he's going to complain a lot. That's my opinion, because I've seen him talk about other games regarding PvP.
Mm-hmm.
And even when he talks about Ashes of Creation's PvP, whether he's watching like a Narc video or he rewatches like a Lazy Peon video, every time he mentions PvP, it's never in a positive way. And he mentions that for every MMO. It's across the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, there are other big streamers that do like PvP. But again, all of these streamers that I'm referring to have like millions of people that are mindless zombies that adhere to their every whim. So
yeah, those larger audience streamers, I think, will have an impact. Richie says the opposite. He says, I don't like the idea of content creators having that massive of an impact. The Asmongold's come in, play for a week, and move on. They aren't the target audience. I do think, however, they have big influence for that initial launch. I do think if Asmongold, I mean, maybe he plays on stream, right? And he's surrounded by X amount of people that protect him, so he doesn't have that experience. But let's say he logs in offline and he just wants to get his crafting done, even under like a non-Asmongold name, and he just have this experience where people are killing him because maybe corruption wasn't tested enough in Alpha 2. I don't see that being a situation. But let's say he just had a negative experience. That could be pretty bad for us. And for those of you that's just joining in, when we are talking about PvE servers, there is two sets of thinking here. There's one where there's a PvE server that means that's just no PKing. Like you still have your node sieges, you still have caravan objective-based PvP, but there's no corruption. And then the far extreme, which we're not focusing too much on that one, is where PvP just doesn't exist. That one to me I don't know. I think you just changed too much about the game. Yeah, you're just rewriting the game. Some people advocate for that, believe it or not. They advocate for that. They only want node sieges. They don't want to get harassed during their caravan runs, et cetera, which I don't know what the point of a caravan run would be. Just let people fast travel resources at that point. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yep.
I just I don't know.
My perspective on it is I've watched a few Asmongold streams about Ashes and other things. And like when I remember him saying during the PvE debate a few years ago, he's like, I don't play MMOs for PvP. He goes, the PvP is normally shit. He goes, if I want to play PvP, I'd rather go play like a shooter or some other PvP
like PUBG
game.
or
like PUBG or one of the other.
Valorant.
Valorant was the one I couldn't think of. Thank you. And so he's come out and said that. And during the last review, he was talking about how as far as combat goes, like the combat for any game, like the next, in order for it to be good, he's holding it to the Elden Ring level tier. It doesn't have to be like Elden Ring. It has to be on that tier as far as like enjoyment for him goes. And so when I look at it, and I'm not saying I don't know Asmongold, I'm not friends with him or anything like that. I'm not trying to say that, but we have like Nice and I, we play a game where a lot of big streamers came to play an open world PvP event because they were paid to come on and participate in the Cyrodiil servers. We had Cypher PK come over. We had Summit 1G come over. We also had Shroud come over and play ESO. And they've all, two of them I know for a fact went in Cyrodiil. I don't know if Shroud did. And the problem is they don't regulate and police stream snipers. And so the entire time you're trying to watch Cypher play, who came from ESO, he's getting hunted down by just the most toxic builds in the game. Just 2 to 3 to 4 people looking where he's at on the map, running him down, and it's just not enjoyable for him to participate. Like, he wants to stream and have fun. It's not fun to be in no-win situations the entire time on stream. Now, and I think that's a lot of the problem you have with open world PvP situations where once again, you have games that do not look at, hey, how can we stop this sort of griefing and these sorts of just stupid mechanics from happening. And you look at Ashes as like, I look at Ashes as like a glimmer of hope where it's like, yeah, you know, they are going to get ganked occasionally. They are streamers. They're going to get ganked more than any of us will. But if they have people constantly going after them, Intrepid's already come out and said, like, hey, this goes against our terms of service. You will get banned if you try to do these things. I think those sorts of things incorporated in place to protect all players. I'm not saying protect big streamers. I'm saying protect everybody, lower level players, newer players, even more experienced players. Stopping that sort of negative, unfun type of gameplay is very, very beneficial. And that's why, like, I want to see it. I want to see it. They're talking about having game managers. They're talking about having actual GMs in the game going around and looking at these things, and they're going to be able to see people on stream and potentially do something about it. And so I haven't been part of a game to where that has existed. And so I personally wonder, if it did exist, would some of these bigger streamers have a different opinion on these PvP, these big world PvP experiences? And I think some of them would, and I think some of them are just naturally more PvE inclined, and regardless, they're just not going to like PvP in general. And I think that's fine. And so I think that's what Intrepid is going to have to weed through is okay, is this a legitimate complaint? Is this an illegitimate complaint? Where is this coming from? Is this something we can actually take care of, or is this just part of the game that we're trying to have happen?
Yeah.
So my whole thing is, and we did talk about this last time, is the corruption system, right? I think they need to tune corruption way harsher at the launch of Alpha 2. Like, if we ever start doing, like, if they say, hey guys, we're going to do corruption system or whatever, they need to put the scale way more on the harsh side than on the lenient side, and just to see what that feels like. And then we can, nerf it going forward. Because I think if it was the opposite, where corruption was there and the people are killing everyone, and then they start like buffing it, or like, you know what I mean, making it harsher and harsher, I think that's going to really put a different sentiment on those people who literally want to live red, which I think is the stupidest thing personally. And Steven said several times, this is not going to be a lifestyle. This isn't going to be something you want to have on your character. But I get there's those very few, like the minority of minorities, that want to do that. But again, I think if the punishment was quite severe to kill a green player, I don't really think you would see that much. And this is, again, we've talked about this, like I've talked about this on my podcast, I've talked about this with other content creators. I've always believed that I think if they properly do corruption well enough, PvE players could really thrive in this game. Like, I truly think that. Like, if you don't want to, like, it, because there is a toggle. Like, people say, oh, it'd be a toggle. It's like, well, if someone really wanted to kill you, you might die occasionally, like maybe like once a week, once every 2 weeks, by that red player or by that person that decided, hey, I want your stuff, because maybe they saw you gathering or whatever. But this isn't going to be every 30 seconds you're dying. You know what I mean? And I think that's more or less what people don't want. You know what I mean? And again, be with people. You know what I mean? If you keep getting ganked by yourself, get friends with you. Go gather with some guildies or something like that. I think, again, this is the thing, is the mindset of these single player mindseted people needs to change when they play Ashes of Creation. And I think that also is going to give them a different play style than all these other MMOs that are currently out.
Hey,
So
I'm no professional streamer, so I'm not going to do a poll in chat, but I want you guys to type. I personally like Vladis's take there, as far as it's better, and you guys go ahead and type your response in chat. I see a couple of you already answered this, but I do think I agree that it's better to have corruption like overly penalizing to the point where you kill one person and you're working off that XP debt for 10 hours. I think it's better to start there and slowly start tuning it down than for it to be too lenient. Even at Alpha 2 launch, I'm not even talking about like official game launch. I'm just talking like an Alpha 2. Then to start at the, somewhat punishing and be like, oh, this isn't punishing enough. People are finding this way around it. Let's increase the penalty. Personally, I'd be curious to see you guys' opinion, but I think it's better for them to start super extreme. Maybe that makes it harder to test. I don't know. That's a good argument, but I kind of like that take personally. Let's go ahead and get to one of these things I have written here. So first thing I wanted to pose here. Oh, by the way, Vladis, I never answered your question. I don't know about shutting down. I just feel like if it came to that point, it had to be a very specific thing where the reason that Ashes shut down is because that many PvE purists are unhappy. And I hate to be a doomist, but I'd rather see it shut down than to get PvE servers. I really would. If corruption got crazy, if they had to appeal to the masses by making corruption like ridiculously punishing, like to the point where, and I'm using extremes here, chat, to the point where you PK somebody, you go corrupted, there's not even a way to work off the debt. You just got negative 50% damage for a whole 24 hours. There's no working off it. You just are corrupted for this amount of time, and your character's just crappy for that amount. I'd rather see them go to extremes like that than to make a PvE server or get rid of this PK system, get rid of the corruption, get rid of PvP. That's just my personal. That's what I would do, or else because I just feel like a PvE server, then we just got other games for that. So that's my doomist response.
I mean, the other thing too is we're not even accounting for other MMOs that come out that could be
competition
just as good as another MMO, right? Like, but it's brand new. So that's the other thing too, is like, you know, people always talk about the Riot MMO. Me personally, I think the Riot MMO is going to be kind of PvP based as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if they added a PvE kind of server or a way for it to cater to a lot of PvEers as well, right? I mean, Riot, they have one of the biggest player bases with, you know, League of Legends, all PvPers. So it would behoove them to kind of go into that, you know, that pocket of PvP and cater to that, right? But all I'm saying is like we're not even accounting for other games. Like if Ashes releases in 2026, maybe 2027, like what other MMOs are coming out? Like what if PAX Day is really, really good? What if there's a whole other MMO that decides to come out? What if Greg Street's MMO is really, really, really good? And they're doing both like PvE and PvP too. Like all these things, like competition is good, but again, it spreads the player base. And people, and from a lot of people that I've talked to, they don't really play multiple MMOs. They want to find the one MMO that they can stick with. Yes. Like they're trying MMOs, but they don't want to. They want to play just one where they feel like I can put in the next 5 to 10 years into this game. Like that's what they want. And so if you have other competition that is equally as good as Ashes of Creation, like what happens then? Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's like, yeah, I like Ashes, but man, that Greg Street MMO is just so much better. Like it has a better PvE system for me as someone who likes that system. So even though they would actually be down to do PvP in Ashes, they just like that other game better. And that's what I'm trying to talk about. It's like that, you know, that rock between a hard place, right? Like it's just we don't know. And again, as much as I want them, I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy towards that. I'm just trying to be a realist. I'm just trying to understand the market. I also just want Intrepid to have some kind of a plan in case of their current design doesn't pan out to where they can't be financially feasible.
Very important. I'm sorry, else. Very important. Just want to address a comment in chat from Aberrat. He says we might want to actually feel the game before suggesting radical design changes. For those of you that just came in and wasn't here at the beginning of the stream when we prefaced this Steven is going to stick to his vision. 99 times out of 100, this will never happen. That is not the purpose of this discussion. The purpose of this discussion is not to advocate for or against PvE servers per se. It's not going to happen. This topic will keep getting brought up. This is a very common sentiment. That's the purpose of this discussion, is for later reference and to address everyone from outside the Ashes of Creation community, because most of those people suggesting this idea aren't really, like most of them aren't in the AOC community or following this game hardcore. That's the point of this conversation. We're not trying to, you know, do radical changes or anything like that. Just wanted to get that out the way. This is for pure discussion purposes to address those people. I'm sorry, go ahead, Else. No,
you're good. I just realized we're an hour in, so I'm gonna try and hit all my talking points here, and then we can talk about whatever you guys think is the most interesting. Because I'm sorry, Vladis, I also want to talk about bards and I really
I'm down.
I really want to talk about bards, so I feel like I'm just gonna rapid fire everything and get it out of there. But my perspective is I don't think you have to cater to a player base at all. I think Baldur's Gate 3 proved with tabletop style RPG audience. Like you see these types of games that have existed, not a single one has garnered the attention of what Baldur's Gate 3 did. And what did they do? They made the best freaking game that has existed in their specific genre. And they had an immense storyline, lots of great actors that won a ton of awards during the Game of the Year awards. They did, the story is great, the combat is great. Even if you like, I'm not a big turn-based player, but I enjoy the combat in that game because there's so much strategy to it. And so I think the analogy I'm going to use is, you know, Intrepid, they should just be like a racehorse. You got your blinders on. You don't see what other horses are doing. All you're focused on is making the best game possible. That's all you should try and do. You should say, hey, we have 200,000 plus players ready for Alpha 2. We need to make this the best possible thing. We need to listen to our feedback from the Alpha 2 testers to try and make this, because if our most diehard fans are resonating with this and they're really enjoying it and they're really playing it well, we're going to generate veteran players from that. And if we generate veteran players from that, and there has to be other players out there that aren't in the loop that are looking at other MMOs that are existing. And frankly, there's a lot of MMOs out right now that if these new MMOs come out and succeed, a lot of them are going to die very, very quickly because they're just not very good and people are holding out hope. You have console players that are like, hey, we got 2 MMOs right now, man. Can you just give us something? Can you give us friggin' something else to play? Because all we have is this. And I think that's what you're going to see a lot that's going to happen. As far as Ashes of Creation goes and doing a PVE server, it's just the corruption system is so interwoven with everything. It's not just like you'll see people on the Discord forums. You'll see it on Discord, on the forums and everything. They'll be like, yeah, just take corruption out. That way I'm not getting ganked. The main reason people don't want the corruption system is they don't want that feeling of just dying randomly, holding a bunch of resources. It makes them angry. It makes them upset. They don't want to play it. And so they would rather have an environment where it's like, hey, if I want to play PvP, I can. But if I don't want to play PvP, I don't want to get killed walking out of my house. I don't want to get killed crafting a greatsword. I don't want to get killed doing this. The problem when it comes to the PVX server of Ashes of Creation is that is all tied in. The anger of getting ganked is built into the player dynamics of Ashes. That's why we have such a passionate player base about this game, because when you get ganked, you are going to get angry and you're going to see the guild and you're going to be like, wow, that guild just ganked me. They're ganking my resources. Screw those guys. Let's go kill them. And that's going to create potential guild wars. That is going to create potential node wars. That is going to create, when people die in these wars, you have what is called durability loss. For those of you guys that don't know, when your character dies, you suffer a durability loss on your gear that you will then have to repair and improve. Well, if you have a PvE server and you're not dying as much because you don't have that anger-induced rage of getting ganked occasionally, you're just going to naturally die less. It's not that it's a bad game design. I'm not saying it's not. People want that for a reason. But you then have to balance the drop rate of resources and materials to counteract the fact that one of your big resource sinks of combat is going to be a lesser effect. And so then they would have to go in and test a PvE and PvX environment of these resource losses in these situations. That's just one. You look at it from a Guild Wars perspective, you have your castle sieges. You have when your castle gets sieged or when your castle fortifications get attacked, you then have to sink resources into repairing them. If you don't have node wars happening as often, because I think we're under the assumption node wars would happen less, guild wars would happen less because you have less incentivization to do these sorts of things, you're going to have less of a resource sink in those scenarios. A lot of people will bring up caravans and they will say, hey, but there's the caravan system. You got to transport resources across the map to make gold. Well, the problem with that is if you have no corruption system that exists in the world, people can use mules. Mules are a mount that you can use. It carries a lot less resources, but there is no risk to carry resources on a mule from one area to another outside of the PVE environment. And so you will have people that will bypass systems because, yeah, it may take a few more times, but I'm not going to get ganked. I'm not what. I have to go a few more times, but I'm guaranteed my gold on return. I would rather do that. Just like the 10% more resource return. You will see that happen a lot where people will bypass a PvP system, and then that system becomes muddied, and it becomes very problematic and not really fun to play. On top of all this, the corruption isn't just a random ganker killing a random person farming resources. It's also potentially a guild killing world bosses. It's also, and so the problem that you have in these situations is these world boss systems are designed in a way to where not only do you have to deal with the boss and everything that's happening with them, you have to also potentially worry about a guild coming in and sideswiping you. If you don't have to worry about that anymore, if you don't have to worry about a potential flagging corruption system of other guilds coming in, you have to drastically change how every single monster is going to work in the game. Because what you're going to have happen is you're going to have a new world or ESO style experience where people run, Nice, you did a fantastic video on this a couple of weeks ago, where 50 to 100 plus players will go to these world bosses and just run them down. And it's not a, oh, wow, this is a fun, engaging combat experience. It's a, hey, let me get a light attack in so I have a chance at a friggin' drop. And that becomes an unfun experience. And so these players that are advocating for PvE servers are not going to have the same type of enjoyment unless Intrepid then goes down and they rework all these things. You then go on top of that and you look at the open world C, which currently is set up as a corruption-free zone, always on PvP. Now, if PvE players don't like a kill box, they're going to fucking hate the high seas because that's literally what it is. There's killing everybody and anybody without consequences. And so I would be under the assumption that in a PvE server, you would have to rehash all this, which means you'd have to rehash all the monsters, which means that the resources going into building these boats, there's no durability loss for the boats, which then means that the artisanship professions for blacksmithing, woodworking, boating, all these things are less valuable. What's more valuable would be things like animal husbandry, where, hey, I want the drippiest, fastest, most load I can carry on a mount possible. We're all going to invest into
drippy fastest load.
Oh yeah, I absolutely.
I just wanted to draw attention to that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And so when you look at this, is a lot of artisan crafting will lose value and lose meaning because of what is happening, and you will see people that will focus more on animal husbandry, and so then therefore the freehold animal husbandry things will be immensely more valuable. I'm almost done, guys. I'm sorry. I want to knock this out and then we can talk about whatever. But on top of all of that, the next issue that you have is Intrepid currently is designing a world map with the caravans. And I know, Vladis, you agree with me on the caravan system. It's a very exciting system. It looks like a lot of fun. Part of the reason it looks like so much fun is because they're designing a world where different parts of the map have different resources, and you will have to interact with players either diplomatically or in a more physical manner in order to collect those resources to advance your current node. And so sometimes, like your node, in order to go from level 2 to level 3, you might need a specific lumber that's across the sea or farther north, and you need to go up there and exchange your resources, pick up some, and bring them back. The problem with this is because there's less combat on a PvE server, there's going to be less turnover. Less turnover on a PvE server means less quests. It also means that once a node is leveled up to 2 to 3 to 4, more often than not, it's going to stay that way for longer because there's just not incentivization of players to try and turn that over, which means that, like, if you look at the first couple levels of staging a node, I'm assuming like we see the wooden buildings and everything, and the higher level will be probably more like stone and stuff like that. And so when these nodes get to a higher level, when caravans no longer have these maintenance loss and people have these boats, when shields no longer are suffering durability loss, and same with bows, you could see a situation where lumber hypothetically loses a metric fuck ton of value because literally there's no turnover happening. And so people in areas where there is no lumber, they want to advance their character. They want to generate gold. They want to make gold. They want to continue their progression. Why would I stay in a place where this is not valuable? I'm going to go to a place where there's stone. And so you're going to see this congregation of players invested more, instead of spreading out and fighting each other over different areas. You're going to see more of a congregation of players in one specific area fighting over one specific resource, which then opens up possibilities for RMT, because you have a node that has a higher value, which is less likely to turn over. People may want to invest money into a freehold. They may want to invest money in this knowing that it has value and it may not disappear tomorrow, which is not the same risk on a PVX server. If resources are more finalized where only a few have value and others don't, botters will then be able to take advantage and funnel their bots into these areas to take them out. Now, Ashes is already looking at taking care of those things, but because it's not a PVX server, we can't help by eliminating botters. It all is going to rely on the reporting system, on the GMs to do their job, and on the Intrepid team to take these guys out. And a lot of that would be a lot easier if botters didn't know what resource to go after. And so you look at all these things that are happening that are happening with a PVE server. It's not that it can't happen. It's not that they can't do it. It's not that they couldn't invest in this and make it a memorable experience. It's just they almost have to rewrite. Even if you just eliminating the fear of corruption throws so many other things out of whack that people enjoy, not just PvP, the economy, and all the other aspects of games that people enjoy MMOs for. And so for this specific one, they'd have to almost just start from scratch regardless, corruption system or not. And so I'm off my soapbox. I'm done.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and mute you in Discord. Okay. So, not playing. So that right there, you need to just clip that and it needs to be a video. That was well said. That was well said. Where do I start? You know what? Can I take the easy way out and just say I agree? Can we just do that? Chat was typing it too. I don't think there was one thing said that was. I mean, I know things are like what do you call it? Subjective, but I don't think there was one thing that was technically wrong. Arctic said he'll clip it later, but so I think you touched on most of these that I had written down here. One, there's a couple of key points I want to address, and then I say we end it off. I got a devil's advocate. No, not this time.
Don't make me devil's advocate myself.
You know what? I had your channel pulled up. I was actually gonna use it mid while you were talking. I was like, let me let him cook. I'm gonna get you one of these times with it though. But
yeah.
So there's a couple of key points I want us to hit before we move on, since that's the focus of this stream anyway. One that I'm gonna this is not one you guys need to address. I just want to say something really quick before we move on to the subject that I want to talk about, which is economy. I see a lot of you guys have been addressing land grab and economy, freeholds, real estate, all that stuff, and how PvP plays an important part in that. First, what I want to talk about is something I'm going to label as conditioning, mental conditioning. And what I mean by that is the following. So like, if you let people have PvE servers, even for testing during Alpha 2, my fear is that people will look at it, and we kind of talked about this last week. My fear is that people will look at it like, oh, so it is possible. Oh, it is a thing. And I'm not talking about like just turning PvP off for a certain time during Alpha 2. I mean like a full-on PvP server, or excuse me, PvE server where PKing is not a thing. PKing is not a risk. And what will happen is you'll let these players fall in love or like this system, and then come launch, or when you turn this back on or you merge that server into a normal server, these players are not going to be happy. I think if you from the jump stick to your ideals, something like New World should have did. If you just say, hey, this is our game, this is what we're going to do. If it's too broken, if we need to up the corruption penalty, so be it. That's fine. But this is our game. This is our vision. We want this to be a thing. We want the conflict. We want you guys to fight each other. We want to see the world burn. We want you guys to like just rant and call each other bad names, et cetera, et cetera. I want people to just go ahead and get used to that. Which is one of the reasons that I don't want to see any kind of. Now, at some point during testing, they're like, hey, like we said last week, let's turn off corruption for 2 days while we're testing XYZ system. Fine, that's cool. I just don't ever want to see people get their own server or get too used to it. It's my only issue because I don't want people to see like, oh, see, they could do it. They can do it. They can do it. Let's just do it like how you did back in Alpha 2. And no, I just think we need to I think it'll make it harder. I don't think Steven will ever not stick to his guns, but I think it'll make the argument that we have about how it will never work tougher if we let that happen. But that's all I want to say there. I want to move on to the topic of the economic impact that a PvE server or limiting PvP in Ashes of Creation could have. What will be the economical impact? Just to start us off, I think the risk versus reward. We talked about this so many episodes. I won't repeat myself too much, but honestly, I always talk about this. Like, if we have a node on the east continent, and there's a specific type of ore that's only available in the northwest continent, and I haul that all the way back. I get it on a caravan, then I get it to the ocean, then I, ship it across the ocean. I'm smuggling it way back to our home node where no one else has that because, I mean, it comes from way over there, right? That thing is going to have so much value. Not only because of how far away it was, not how far away it was. Well, there's how far away it was, how rare that item is, right? But there's also the fact that I had to cross those seas where PvP is just, there's no corruption in the open seas, right? I had to go, you take in all these factors, that ore that I managed to get back to this node via caravan is valuable big time. And I think when you take away one of those elements that I contributed to my pricing of said ore, when you take away one of those things, you now have a bad impact on the economy. Yes, you still have to go way over here to get it. Yes, you still have XYZ factors, but that factor of PvP, that factor of risk, that little bit of risk being taken out the equation. And I'm talking about even off the open seas. I'm talking about even if you kept that as is. I just think like Andy said, the economy would just be wrecked. But yeah, what are you guys Vladis, let's let you get in here. How do you feel about the economic impact, or wherever you want to go with that?
Well, economy would be fucked. Like
yes,
like I said, like if it's gonna be a true PvE design server, massive redesigns towards a lot of systems would have to basically go in and occur. Drop rates for monsters, spawn rates for gatherables, all that would have to take into consideration because there's no killing or losing of materials or anything like that. Me personally, I want mobs to be hard. Like I know Steven has said that this isn't going to be like an easy MMO. I've kind of yet to see that, you know what I mean? And I know it's they're still testing other things.
Yeah.
They want to get stuff, but I really do hope monsters are actually like kind of like classic WoW. Like in classic WoW, if you pull more than 2 or 3 mobs, like you're gonna die. Like you ain't gonna live. You know what I mean?
I'm no WoW player, but I watch some WoW hardcore clips where they pull like 2 or 3. I'm like, what? Why is he running? Like, just kill those things. Like, because for them to get out, I'm like, just kill that thing. Why are you running? And from what I understand, this is once again speaking out of ignorance. WoW mobs have like a hell of a leash range, don't they? Like
they can, especially in classic. In classic, yes.
Yeah, I watched some classic WoW hardcore, and those things chase them forever, and they're just like, I'm done, chat. I'm like, just keep running or just kill it, and I'm just like, oh,
yeah. I mean, and again, like I think most PvE players, if they can balance the corruption, it's not the fact that a PvE player doesn't want any PvP. They just want to go about their game not getting ganked or killed, every 30 seconds. If they see other people PvPing, they don't care. They're just going to walk past them and just go about their day. Like, it's not really about the PvP. It's about the feeling of being ganked, the feeling of just dying. And it's like, again, you don't want to engage in combat. But again, and I think we kind of need a little bit of PvEers, like the PvE mindseted people, the ones that want to go and gather. Like, they're the ones that are going to go do all of those kinds of activities that we kind of need for the economy. A lot of the PvPers that I talk about, they don't give a shit about economy. So I think if you get a server with nothing but PvP people, like, is that server going to thrive? Because no one cared about economy. Everyone just wants to go out and and kill people. That's all they want to do. So it's like you kind of need people that want to have that mindset to gather, to do professions, to do the things that aren't just killing people every day.
Absolutely.
You do need those people to thrive in a game like this. So and again, I think if the corruption is properly balanced, I think those PvE players will do just fine. I've literally convinced one of my friends who is a very much Care Bear, whatever you want to call him, and I convinced him to even buy an Alpha 2 pack. And everything that he's been seeing, because I talked about the game, like he's excited. You know what I mean? And so he's like, well, and he's just like, as long as you party up with me, so I'm not by myself, we're good. You know what I mean? And that's it. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of PvE players or even solo players, like I said, if they can adjust their attitude or their way of thinking, I think they could have such an amazing time in Ashes.
Yep. No, I completely agree with you, Vladis. It was funny that I remember the July live stream of freeholds, and I remember thinking, I am never going to own a freehold. I am never going to be a high-end crafter at a freehold. I will auction my protective services out / own a mafia and like bust people's heads for whatever reason in order to get stuff. But I loved the detail that they went into. And it was just nice seeing that Intrepid basically said, hey, we know that artisan crafting matters for players, and this is how we're going to show you by making a very elaborate designed system for players and having all these different systems for players to engage in. Then you have the tabletop games, you have PvP, and I think the biggest aspect that people have is everybody likes their own specific MMO, right? And that's the funny thing about this specific community is we all come from different MMOs, different spaces, and people mock other MMOs that people came from, but they don't realize that we're all looking for the next thing. And a lot of us have that preconceived notion of, hey, I want this game I want to be in a comfort zone. I want to be comfortable when I play the next game. Yes. I want this game to be kind of like a game that I've played. I don't want to have to deal with these other things. And Ashes is looking like that, like no, we're going to make a good game. We're going to assign value to these things. A lot of the stuff you're going to have to get over or whatever, or we're going to have to make systems so good that you're okay with dying occasionally. You're okay with getting ganked occasionally. Like the last time I played a turn-based game was like 10 years ago. Love Baldur's Gate 3 because everything else was fantastic. Even the turn-based is fun. And so I got over the turn-based aspect of that game because everything else was so good. And I see that same sort of avenue for what Ashes can do. Like, yeah, you might not like to get ganked occasionally. You will. But the crafting's great. They actually care about your time. The economy, they're actually focusing on working on. They're actually taking the time to do these sorts of things. They're providing the care, attention, and detail to these other systems that you really enjoy. The pros may outweigh the cons for you.
And I think a lot of the people that I've talked to like the fact that if someone kills them, they get a penalty, because many MMOs don't have a penalty. That's why spawn killing and griefing is so prevalent in a lot of other MMOs that have like open world PvP, because you can just spawn camp and you can just, like, if you really want to ruin someone's day, you pretty much can. But in a game like Ashes, they can ruin your day, but it's literally going to cost them a shit ton on their character.
I like that. I like knowing that there's cost. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think once people understand that, they're like, oh, okay. So, because again, it really sucks whenever someone's ruining your day and they get nothing for it. Like, they get away scot-free.
Yep.
And in a game like Ashes, that ain't going to be the case. And I think a lot of PvEers would be okay with that. And again, this is going to, whether it's Lazy Peon or one of our fellow consecrators that does like this 2.5 hour-long video explaining how each system works in Ashes or something once the game gets going. Like I said, I do have faith. That's why I became a consecrator. If I honestly didn't have faith, I wouldn't even have wasted my time being a consecrator for this game. But it's like I do feel like there could be a huge renaissance back in the MMO genre because of Ashes.
I think so.
Vertec has been having some good back and forths in chat, and thank you for the gifted sub. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you, Viral. Gifted a sub to Jamie. Oh wait, hold on. Is it more? Oh, he gifted one to Annie as well. Let's go. So Vertex has been going back and forth. He's been talking with Jamie. I see him just talking with Richie. So he made the obviously joking comparison. He's like he wants to see instance-based PvP gone. Basically like mirroring saying, okay, so here, let me read what he just said actually. One thing he said earlier, he was like, hardcore PvP people would cry about it in the same way if us PvE loving people are crying about zero content for us to do unmolested. The actual issue would show like a stub toe. Like basically if the roles were reversed, looking at it from a PvE or someone that's not interested, which I think a lot of people in Ash's space, a lot of them are getting out of their comfort zone or at least willing to give Ashes a chance to see if they can get over. A lot of people are not fans of PvP. Don't want it. Matter of fact, Annie, she's been in here like defending the points on why we don't want to see a PvE server, why it wouldn't work, why the systems would just go to crap. But she's not even interested in PvP. I think most content creators, not most, some content creators for Ashes aren't PvPers, but they love Ashes, and that says a lot about this game that Steven is making.
Yes.
And Vertex just saying, I'm 100% down to give it a go. I'm just giving my opinion that it's going to drop a ton of people once they realize there is zero content specifically for PvE people, but plenty for PvP. So I don't think it's that black and white, but I think I get what you mean. I think all content in the game, like all the dungeons, I would argue that there is more content, and this is, we haven't got our hands on the game, but it's an MMO. At its base, it's PvE. There is a lot of content for PvE. The only issue is, which is what I think you're referring to, is that PvP is a threat for most of that content, which is the issue most PvE purists have with the product, right? But as far as PvE content, there is that. Now, if we want to talk pure PvE content, which I think he's referring to, he means PvE content that you can do and just sit back and chill. You can go out and relax, turn off, drop your guard. You don't got to worry about someone killing you. You don't got to be worrying about someone just kind of going just purple on you, just attacking. I'm not even talking about killing you and going corrupted, but just trying to attack you, see if you're going to attack back and flag up. You don't got to worry about that. They don't get to have their safe space. Richie was like, don't take away his arenas. But he's saying, Vertex says to Viral, can PvE people fight a boss with a guarantee that we won't get attacked by PvP purists? Jamie had said, my chat's good. You guys talk too much. The only reason I changed my opinion on PvP is I have played almost every MMO I can as a PvP player. I feel that. Yep. But yeah, like basically people, and that's something we should try to do here is look at it from the other side. Like how much content, I mean, we know there's some instance-based content, right? There's some.
Yep.
But how much content can these PvE purists, and this is just me playing devil's advocate, I guess, slightly with Vertex here. How much content? Like, what about them? What about them? What is your let's get Elton here, I guess. What is your rebuttal to that?
I think I'm just going to be blunt and straightforward. I think a lot of people see current MMOs and they see the theme park style MMO and they say, hey, where's the progression? Where's the next dungeon? Where's the next thing for Ashes? The thing is it's not going to function that way. And the progression that we all know and appreciate for other games is not going to exist in this game. It's there will be turmoil. You will have some days where you have a good resource day. There will be some days where you get ganked and you lose everything. And you learn your lesson and you make sure that you don't carry around resources that hurt. That hurt you emotionally when you lose them. But the thing is the thing that really drew me to Ashes is I am mostly a PvP player. I do enjoy combat a lot, but I enjoy all content. I enjoy all combat. I want my PvE experience to be enjoyable as well. And the thing that gets me coming back to this game is the world is going to constantly keep changing. This drama that PvPers are going to have with other players, sometimes you, sometimes other people, it's going to create turmoil in the world. It's going to create a turnover on nodes, which means that some other nodes are going to open up, which means that freeholds will then open up, which opens up more crafting, more experience for you further on down the line. It's not like you're going to miss out on owning a freehold and then you're never going to be able to get back in. These things are going to turn over. And if you really want to go after one, you can invest the time and effort into going after one. Quest lines are going to open up off of this turnover. New quests are going to open up as different nodes progress and move on. And so I look at Ashes and I see a game that if these systems are done well, like Vladis has said, I could be playing for the next 10 years because they don't have to add any new things. You're going to have that constant, like, part of the reason we enjoyed Cyrodiil so much is because fights are changing all of the time. Like, like sometimes you go around a corner, sometimes there's 4 people, sometimes there's 40. And those 4 people have different gear customizations, sometimes 40. It doesn't matter. There's 40, you're dead, respawn. And so those perspectives, it's enjoyable, but there will be times where we'll be on a server and playing, and we may not unlock different quest lines and areas for the first 6-7 months. We won't get to experience some world events that other servers are going to experience. And so you have all of that incorporated in the game on top of the non-stop drama that's going to happen, the ganking, the guild drama, all these other things. And honestly, from my perspective, that's the most fun type of game you can get engaged in. Like when you have your skin in the game, when you're invested, even if you're not a PvPer, you're going to be like, hey, I'm a weapon crafter. We're getting sieged in 6 days. I'm going to do my part to make sure that everybody that's defending my shit has the best weapons possible to defend my shit, because I don't want to lose it. And so you're going to have that sort of interaction and teamwork, I think, if it's done well. And so those things are just things that have been missing, and what I am so looking forward to, and why Nice and I are on episode 30 of our podcast, because we're so excited about these types of systems that are completely different than anything else we're used to.
Yeah. Before Vladis, you get in here, catching up with before we actually even get to that, a couple of things. Thank you everyone that's watching, no matter which platform you're on right now. We got a lot of you in here. I really, really appreciate it. Make sure you obviously are subscribed to Is There No One Else, who we do the podcast with every week. Our special guest here, Vladis, really awesome. Love having Vladis here. Vladis, this is your 3rd time here, right?
Yeah,
that's freaking
3rd time's
awesome.
a charm.
Yes. Make sure you guys are following Vladis. He does a lot of Ashes of Creation streams on his channel. I have him tagged in the YouTube title, and I'm sure most of you know him on Twitch. So definitely he does a lot of awesome stuff for the community. Really, really great guy. What else? Let's see. Make sure I did start on Twitch. For those of you who obviously can't tell, I did recently start Twitch, so make sure you're following there. Now I want to get to 2 funny things. I was just laughing at chat. You guys are funny. So Warrior had said, play Tarkov as much as possible and it makes yourself numb to losing everything. Ashes will be a cakewalk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. If you guys done any extraction stuff, this will be nothing. You're like, oh, that's it. I only lost that much material. Oh, this is nothing. Vertec is providing his points in chat still. He says to Viral a couple minutes ago, he said, I don't care about progress. Give me a title or a cosmetic. I just want to go kill bosses without being killed by Big Jimmy 69. I feel it. Richie says to Viral, you could still progress with just PvP. Bosses don't drop gear. They drop high-end crafting resources, which can then drop when you kill them, and then you can still make high-end gear. Well said. Viral response to Vertex saying, fair and understood. I think Ashes is based on player friction, which is why I can't argue that it will be a place that PvE players first will truly enjoy AOC. And that's the thing with this game. We've talked about this before, else. Like, this is the game where I think a lot of us, if not all of us, even PvP enjoyers, right? Everybody, I think, to some extent, has to get out their comfort zone to some extent. Unless you're like an Arcage main or Arcage vet, maybe this is just literally the next thing for you. It's like a part 2 or whatever. Arcage 2 due out soon, surely. Anyways, I think it's a little bit easier, but no matter what, it's okay. So a PvE purist, this is gonna be an adjustment for you, because maybe you've done some PvP in the games, but it's always your choice, right? You queue up for that arena, you participate in that guild war. You know, it's different for you. If you came from a action combat MMO, maybe this is going to be a switch up from you. It's tab target. This is going to be out of your comfort zone. Everyone, for some reason, is going to be out their comfort zone in some way or another with Ashes of Creation. But the MMO community as a whole has came together, at least most of us, and said, hey, this one's worth it. I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to at least give this a try. And we've had so many people come in our podcast saying, hey, I don't like PvP at all, but I like you guys' podcast. You guys inspire me, or I'm going to let Ashes be the one to let me try to get out my comfort zone. And I love seeing stuff like that. People that just like, you know what? This ain't what I like to do, but I'm going to try. DJ Vertex says, people that don't actively engage in PvP will quickly be filtered out of the game, and it kind of stinks, but I get it. Steven wants to build a specific game, and he's doing it. 100% perfectly valid, and I'm okay with it. I'm going to keep bringing up my opinion, though. Very fair, and I love that you're doing that. I love that you're doing that. Also, I'm starting a petition on Reddit, guys. So with the recent success of Pal World, I want to make sure Ashes of Creation is successful. And so I'm asking that people that choose to profess, make that their profession, animal husbandry, that, we can like have guns for the animals that we capture and make. Like, animal husbandress breeds a unicorn with a mounted automatic rifle, or, something like that. I'm pretty sure that'll go well. But yeah, that's pretty much what I a potion launcher. And he says, no, you like animal husbandry. What do you mean? How do you not want to like make an animal with a freaking rifle? You know what? Whatever.
As long as I can send my animals to go and mine for me.
David says, get guns out of my fantasy game. I'm kidding, chat, by the way. I'm kidding, but yeah, just guns just make me unimmersive. I hate that muskets and blunderbusses are in New World. It's just like, I would love to play dude, can y'all imagine a first-person shooter or even a third-person shooter COD style MMO? Like, think Warzone, but like a true MMO where you're crafting certain guns, certain armor,
like
certain
Destiny. Isn't that what Destiny is? Like, I don't know. I've only seen Destiny. I haven't played it.
Dune is supposed to be kind of like that, but it's not out yet.
True. Destiny. See, you guys, I never really considered Destiny. Thank you. Warrior agrees with me. I don't consider Destiny an MMO. I just don't. I just really don't. That's just me. I know people like to consider it one, but nah. Modern Warfare 3 MMO would be sick, but based on the 360 version, yes, the original ones. The success of Power World tells me people want combat pets. That is a great tangent. Did you guys see my poll on Reddit? I put a poll on Reddit, and I will share my whole screen here. Ellis, would you like me to send you the link?
Sure.
Here, let me type in. I don't know why I don't have Reddit. Oh yeah, for sure.
Right back.
Here, let me see. My poll should have ended midstream, I think. Let me see. It may have time left on it. Let me drag this over so you guys can see my screen.
While this is happening, I just want to say that I don't agree with Vertex's point that it's going to drive out PvE players. I think what drives out players from a game more than anything is their favorite player loops being trivialized. I think when your favorite player loop is trivialized, downgraded, made not as valuable. So I've had a lot of people in my Discord talk like, I've been playing. I enjoy New World. I enjoyed New World for the combat. The combat's really good once you get to end game. But I have a few people that are like, I'm in MMOs for the economy. I am not going to touch New World until New World fixes their economy. And so for them, the value of playing that game that system for them is garbage, and so they're not going to play it. Same thing with PvEers. Like I've done lots of videos covering New World, and they're like, there's no end game rating. There's one trial for New World players. We want more systems. We want them to assign like how often are we supposed to play the same thing for 2 years before we get something new? And so I think when you don't assign the value and you don't show the players like, hey, your gameplay and what you enjoy, we know it matters to you. We're going to show you by making a good system. When you don't do that, players leave, regardless if it's PvP, PvE, crafting, animal husbandry, whatever. That's the biggest issue. that I think a lot of MMOs struggle with right now. They'd much rather reskin mounts and have a crown store and do these sorts of things and generate monetization off of housing than they would create useful, fun feedback loop or gaming loops. So,
I put and obviously I agree with that. I think here's the thing that and I get like I'm with you. I get Vertex point.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think what he's and this is essentially what you just said, else, but I think essentially what Vertex is describing, like how do I say, like there not being enough PVE content, or people having to get out their comfort zone in that sense. That's what PvP enjoyers and MMOs and a huge majority of MMOs have been dealing with every MMO title.
Yes.
Being an afterthought, just being something tacked on. Oh, here's your arena game mode. Go enjoy that. Here's this one PvP map that you guys will use, for years. This is the first time that PvP players can like look into a new MMO and feel like, hey, they thought about me. Hey, they're considering content for me. And this is not me talking about corruption and PK. I'm talking about just content. When I'm talking about this, I'm talking about caravans. I'm talking about the open seas. I'm talking about node sieges, guild wars, castles and all that good stuff. It's nice being considered by the developer. It's nice being having a developer that acknowledges our existence, that acknowledges that there's a player base, that acknowledges that there is a core gameplay loop that's not just running the same trial over and over, trying to raise your DPS meter, and instead these day-to-day player interactions. I think there's something to be said there. To move forward here, and we'll get back on the previous topic, or maybe we go to bards after this, because I think we had a really good discussion there from a lot of you, and then we'll catch up with the voices of air before we move on with bards. But we'll close it out with go ahead.
Before I move on, I'll say my final thing, and it's more about the kind of current MMO, not even MMO, really. It's like the gamer player sentiment. And I'm in this boat. A lot of the people I talk to in other guilds are in this boat. Is I think Jamie made a comment earlier on about how PvEers have like 20 games that they could play, but they don't want to play them because they've already tried them for the past 15 years. Just like how PvPers have MMOs they could play that are PvP based, but none of them are good. And so I think that's why the clash of at least every upcoming MMO is such a contentious topic, because everybody is bored in their MMO and they're looking forward to the new. But because MMOs don't come out every month or every year, every time one is coming out, we want to placate it or base it around our own likes.
Yes.
And so that's what happens. You know what I mean? It's that contentious thing. Of course, there's other PvE theme park MMOs that people go and try, and they've already tried them. They already played them. Like, I quit WoW. I'm not playing any MMO right now because I've tried them all and none of them are satisfactory to me. Like, they don't give me that satisfaction. I mean, Else and Nice are playing New World right now, and I'm pretty sure they would, if there was another game out that was more fun, that they'd be playing that. New World is just something to do. And I think every gamer that I talked about, that's like literally what it is. Oh, it's just something to waste time. Like, they're not even invested. It's just, they're so gamer, like they want to, as a gamer, you want to go on your computer and you want to log into a game. Like, that's what you want to do, So I just think that's why Ashes specifically, because it's such a good premise, man. And I think the PvEers look at all the systems and get really excited, but then they focus on the PvP. And then the PvEers get all upset because the PvEers are focused on something that can take away their game, right? That's the thing. Like, everybody wants their own game. So I just wanted to mention that, because I feel like, we just want a great game to play, man. And this is what sucks right now in the current gaming sentiment, is we don't get a Baldur's Gate 3 or an Elden Ring like every other couple of months. And I think that's why Power World did such a great job, because it's a pretty legit survival game. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care for it. I'm not a survival nut. I don't like survival games, but I can appreciate it for what it is. And many people are having a great time playing it. I just wish more games like that came out more often.
Yep. Yeah. You covered a great point there, Vladis, and I completely agree with you. I wanted to say two things here, and then we can move on. But my big thing with New World is I'm really enjoying New World, but a lot of the burnout that the first day players are experiencing, until they come out with new stuff, I know it's just like, I know there's a timetable on this game. I can't see until they start coming out with new arenas, new OPRs, new content for stuff that I enjoy. I can't see myself playing New World for 5-10 years. I can't say like, this is the game that I want to spend a lot of time doing. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun playing it, but until they do those things, I know that the shelf life is like you said, like the minute something else comes out that has something new and exciting, I'm going to go play that. And so I'm trying to find this comment, because going off of what you were saying off of PVE players and trying to latch on to the next thing, I did a video on the Lucky Ghost thing a couple years ago, and I'm going to try and find the comment. I mentioned it last week as well, but it's still an important topic, I think. But somebody commented, they're like, we can't have corruption. We can't do this because I don't like it, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, hey, man, like there's other MMOs coming out. Why don't you want to play another MMO? Like, why are you so attached onto this one? And he goes, because I think this game's going to be good, and it might be the last chance for a good MMO that I have. And I'm pushing forth my attempt to have this game be something that I like.
Yep.
And I was like,
I've heard that many times.
And I was like, okay, I respect it. Like, yeah, you don't like this aspect of the game. You want it to change because you think this game's going to be good. Okay, I understand. So,
yeah.
You want to talk bards?
Hold on. So moving on to here, I put the link in the group chat there. So I think the voting has ended. So this was kind of something that we brought up a while back, but I made this Reddit post right after, I want to say 2 episodes ago, because we did a bonus one. The title of this post on Reddit, and I think the voting's closed, is, do you like the idea of combat pets in Ashes of Creation? I didn't really put my opinion here. I put yes as the first option. I just wrote as follows. How do you feel about combat pets in Ashes of Creation? There are a lot of opinions about multiple systems and systems in Ashes, but this is the one I see the most negativity around. And if you're against combat pets or want them removed, explain why. And I know this isn't a huge sample size, guys. Maybe I should put it on mmorpg Reddit, but I think going to that place, especially with Ashes talk, is not a safe thing to do. But as you can see on the Ashes of Creation Discord, most people voted no. And here's my response to that. So, one, the fact that most people don't want this feature is quite telling. My second response to this information is that even if it was 50-50, even if that said 141 yes, 141 no, that is still very interesting to me, because that's a feature in your game that people are split over. Like, I don't know of too many things I can put here, unless you want to talk about like the thing that we're talking about, PVE servers or something like that. I don't know too many specific features you can put in the game and be okay with even have your player base just not even wanting it, or not being sure on it. So I don't know. I just thought that was something interesting to talk about briefly. What are you guys' thoughts? What are your thoughts, Vladis?
I'll be quick on this one. I don't like combat pets. I don't mind them for vanity purposes, or even for PvE purposes, that like a pet will lead you or smell things and be like, oh, I sniff a treasure box over here, or something lure. Like if a monster is native to that area and they like sniffing something, they go off on their own little thing and you follow them. It takes you to like a lure place. Like if it's in that way, I don't mind at all. But for combat purposes, it's just going to boggle down the computer and your screen and all of this stuff, the noise, for no reason. And I would rather them put their focus into other things.
Yeah. Every time I've seen combat pets, I haven't seen them work well. I'm not saying that that's always going to be that way. I'm willing to test. I'm willing to find out. But I can personally do without combat pets as well. So that's my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, the combat pets are like not summoner pets. So, Bergen, we're talking about combat pets. Like those the ones. It's some information on a wiki about it. Like you sacrifice some of your stuff. It's basically, I don't even know how to make a good comparison. But don't think summoner pets. Think of summoner pets as summons. Combat pets are like you sacrifice some of your power to have a companion run around with you. And the main argument is like what he said, in that screen clutter. They usually become a meta. From what I hear, Arcade was it that didn't do them well. It's just, I don't know. A lot of solo players love the concept of combat pets, even if they have to sacrifice their character's personal power. But yeah. And I know in some games them being targetable is always annoying, but it's just always been a fun debate because, and like I said in that post, the only reason I asked it is because it's one of those features that I see most people disliking or like, hey, we don't need that or get away with it. It's just the clutter. It's just I don't know. Personally, I think a good compromise they should consider. I think I said this last episode. I think a good compromise they should consider is just like once there's PvP involved, get it off the screen. Like you can't summon a combat pet until you're out of combat or unflagged or whatever the case, whatever however you want to refer to it as. But yeah, they will get some of your power. You sacrifice some of your power. Which it's still typically worth it because that's one basically they can tank for you, taunt. That's one more thing that an NPC has to target. Anyone that's ever played a pet class, not that once again, not that this is a pet class thing, this is just combat pets, but anyone that's ever played or had some sort of combat pet with them know that it is super beneficial in PvE when they distract the mob, so you can just do your whole full combo while the thing's distracted. But you want a combat pet that doubles as a mount? Interesting. That would actually be really cool. But yeah, I just wanted to discuss that. I don't want to spend too much time on that.
Sure.
I just wanted to share the results with you guys. I believe you all. And once again, thank you guys so much. This has been a very fun episode. Thank you guys so much for being here. We are going to end this off on a talk about the bards. Which one of you guys want to go?
It's about time.
Go for it, Else. I know you've been wanting to do this, so I'll let you go first.
I have been waiting for 4 days to talk about
I know.
It's cool that like me, Vladis, and Stakino are all like in this realm where we're like bards. Yes, bards are gonna be freaking sick. I just want to say I did a video a couple weeks ago talking about it and talking about how Ashes of Creation is trying to flip the script of generally how bards are perceived. I try to cover like mainstream media, other games that have done them, a disservice, and then games that have tried to do them well. And when I look at like, nice, how many times have we been asked the question like, hey, what characters are you looking at? Like what archetypes are you looking at? I feel like it's once every other podcast. And I'm always like, yeah, rogue fighter rogue. Like I'm going to go something like that. And I still am. But after rereading what the bard is going to be, after playing bard on Baldur's Gate 3, and these sorts of things, and knowing that this is a more group-based game, I'd be lying if I was telling you that I'm not looking at bard like number one as the number one option, because for me, bard is just, it's going to be one of those group amplifiers. And if the player plays the bard well, they're going to amplify it's like healers in a lot of MMOs, right? Like they just, healer amplifies a group in a much larger way. A bard is going to be like that, but in more of like a buff debuff style system. And it's so cool because it's like, you're essentially like a midfielder in soccer, European football, as Europeans want to call it, whatever. But like you can go from offense to defense and you can look and see what your team needs, and you can provide potential situations to help protect and alleviate players, your teammates in those areas. And yeah, I think a well-played bard is going to be a power amplifier in a way that not a lot of other archetypes will be able to compete with, which I'm pretty excited about. So
well said.
Yeah, I mean, I just want the classic bard that just kind of elevated into 2023. It's, I know, I thought I misinterpreted Cash during the summit, but I just feel like a lot of people that have been in the MMO space for the past 10 years really haven't seen the traditional bard class. And I'm just very excited for Ashes to bring back the bard into the trinity, which it's not a trinity anymore because they're going to have a true support class. And I don't even know how the summoner is going to be. They talk about the summoner very differently. Like it's going to be the jack of all trades and stuff. But honestly, I wouldn't mind the summoner also being a support class too. I wouldn't. I think not saying that they couldn't be a DPS or whatever, but I'm just saying like I wouldn't mind if the summoner did have more utility spells for buffs and debuffs than the other classes, the other traditional DPS classes. But yeah, bards I think are a very cool class. I think they're very underrepresented right now in the MMO space. I'm curious as to like what are they going to do, because I've seen the different renditions that other games have tried to do with bards, and I'm just, because we technically haven't seen a pixel of what the Ashes of Creation bard is, other than just what Steven kind of played up in the Ashes Discord. That's about it, that they're looking pretty good. I don't know. I'm just really excited because I think of them very much like what you just said, the buff debuff class. You can play them in melee, ranged. I mean, they're kind of all over the place sometimes, and they're kind of needed where they're needed. Yeah. And I think those players, there's so many of those players that want a class like that. You know, that they don't want to be held to like the healing degree where they feel like responsible for someone dying. But I think a lot of people want to feel useful in like, hey, here's some crit, here's some haste, here's some mana, here's some health, you know, but in a way that's kind of like you know, multifaceted and not just a very linear just heal.
Exactly.
You know? So
I like, and Vladis is super on point with that. I've never even played a game that had a bard. Yeah, because I don't count myself as technically playing Arcage. It hasn't been done right. Everything I know about Bard is from stuff that I've watched on YouTube of other people playing it and talking about it, you know? I can't wait to see it truly done justice, like truly done justice, and really have its fit in that MMO, like Vladis said, not a Trinity, but the MMO square.
Basically.
Yeah, call that. And as far as your point with the summoner, I hope, and to me, that's one of the classes I think should and will be super dependent on its secondary archetype choice, like really class dependent on as far as what those summons do. I know they talked about it before, but I think that should be the most augment intensive archetype in the game. Like, I think summoner cleric should really feel like a necromancer, get that secondary augment where you can sacrifice all your pets for a big burst heal or to bring back a player, and then they go on a long cooldown as a result. I want to see the summoner bard really have I want the whole band to be good, like giving out buffs. I want them to be spread out, like, you know, people within this proximity of that pet get a damage boost. People within proximity of that pet, it randomly casts out a 10% mitigation buff. You know, little stuff. There's so much that you can do with the summoner as a primary archetype and then add in a secondary archetype. You can conjurer. I don't have no idea, man. There's so much that they can do with summoner, but that when it comes to talking about secondary augments, the summoner is one that it's typically actually it is kind of easy to try to guess some of these things, but I think there's a reason, and all of us will agree that there's a reason that the summoner and bard are going to be the last that we see, because they're the most complicated, and they're going to be the most. You guys can quote me on this later. I think the summoner and bard for Ashes of Creation are going to be the most innovative of those class types that we've seen in MMOs. Yeah. I do see that. I do hope that the bard is, you know, like the normal buff bot. Still can do damage maybe, but I hope it gets back to the traditional support. But I got a feeling, and it's all from that showcase from 2 Decembers ago. I got a feeling that they're cooking up something special with Summoner. That was actually one of my questions. That's the question I put on the forums this month for the monthly question for the stream. Like, what are their current goals or plans with the Summoner? But yeah. I would like to, I know I just did this, but once again, thank you guys so much. This has been a really good talk. I want to once again shower Vladis with love. Obviously, check out Vladis, YouTube, Twitch. Is there no one else? And I don't care if you disagreed with 1, 5, or 0 of Vladis's take this stream. I need you guys to follow this guy, and I need to see like a bunch of applause in chat right now, because this guy stood his ground and he walked into the lion's den with these PvP Andes. No, I'm playing. But he walked in here and he stuck to his guns. And quite honestly, chat, there wasn't too much. Like, there was not too much that I disagreed with Vladis. I think he had very, very good points. Even if you disagree with him, he had very good points, and he wasn't trying to change the game. He was just saying like, hey, if, you know, like a year after launch, if this isn't working, maybe they got to try this, maybe they got to try that. And I think he had very well articulated and very good points, and without him we can't have this discussion. It's one thing, and that's one thing me and Els talk about a lot, and that's the format of our podcast. It's me, him, and you, the voices of Vera, hearing these different takes. Here, we're not just here being experts at read every freaking word in the wiki, been following Ashes of Creation since Steven was in college and never even thought of it himself. You know, we're not just on a soapbox on a pedestal telling you guys like, hey, this is how it should be. I do not like that. This is discussion. I like discussion. I like debate. I like seeing different points of views. There's been plenty of times my points of views have changed live. But yeah, I just want to say thank you before we head out. I think we're pushing the 2-hour mark here in about 1 minute. Else, anything before we close out?
Yeah, I want to say I wanted to quick go back to bards because I waited so long. No, I'm just playing. But,
I was about to say you didn't get it out.
No, I'm gonna keep talking about bards real quick. But the thing, like the cool part about playing Baldur's Gate, and if you guys want to know more about my perspective on where the bard is going to be, feel free to go check out the video. But like Baldur's Gate's bard is the jack of all trades, can literally do anything. And so I can do melee physical damage, ranged physical damage. I set mine up as like a ranged caster plus offhand support, so that I can, if we get bombarded by a bunch of mobs in an area, I have the ability to just nuke a bunch in one spot. And so that's how I've built mine, but I could build it so many different ways, which is cool. And the thing that draws me to Baldur's Gate is you don't know what the fight is going to be until you get into it. You don't know how players are, how the boss is going to interact. You don't know how they're going to fight. And you have different things in the room or on the battlefield that you could potentially use, like line of sight, water, whatever, in order to incorporate into the battle. You can freeze water and make an ice, make like an ice puddle, and an ice puddle, God, a point to where people can slip and fall down and then they can't attack you. And so it's really cool to see how the game is incorporating those designs. And Steven has made the same comments. Like, he comes from a Dungeons and Dragons background. He's played Pathfinder on stream, and like they've gone through how they do these things. And he's talked ad nauseum about how they don't want to do DPS meters. They don't want to do these things. They want you to experience the boss for the first time. They want you to experience these encounters for the first time, formulate your attack, potentially lose and wipe, and then come back and like figure out like, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to kill this thing? And that's where like the bard can be so flexible in those fights. Like, holy shit, like this boss is like really wrecking us right now. I need to provide support to the healers so that they're providing more healing to the front lines. Or, hey, this boss has like, we have some DPS checks with this specific boss. We need to do these things. And so that type of amplification is super exciting. And it's going to allow players that, doesn't matter what you enjoy, like whatever combat you enjoy in this game, I think the bard is going to have a huge impact in that regard. And yeah, I don't know. I'm now done talking about bards.
Yeah, the concept of DPS bard, being able to do DPS, the same example I use every week, doing a whirlwind, and then, you do your spin to win, and then people around you get 5% damage because they was near you as you were singing while you were spinning your greatsword. Like that, I don't know. I just want to see that. That's why I say it so much. I would love to see that, how a melee bard works. But so chat, we're gonna go ahead and end it here. This has been episode 30. This has been really fun. Don't leave yet. One of our buddies from our community is streaming right now. I'm sure you guys heard of the sensation known as Pal World. I just looked, he literally has one person in chat, you guys.
Oh dang.
I remember starting as a streamer. I'll be quite honest. My first stream, I actually just found my first stream the other day. We were talking about it in Discord. I had an ugly camera angle that was like, it was a downward angle looking up at my crotch. And so I'm just crouched over looking down at the cam. It is horrible. I will send you guys a link if you want to see that horrible first stream jitters. Yeah. But anyways, I got lucky at my first stream because I was already in the ESL community. Other people stopped by, whatever. But he's new to streaming. He has one person in chat. He's streaming Pal World. He's been loving the game. If you don't want to follow, you don't have to follow, but it would mean a lot if you at least stop by, consider following or whatever. He's on Twitch. Everyone that's on YouTube, I wish I can bring you guys over to Twitch with a raid. But yeah, we're gonna raid into him. But once again, this has been a great conversation. Yes, E-Man. Yeah. Let's both raid him. Yep. I'm gonna go ahead and start it now on the Twitch. Like I really would really appreciate it if you guys go follow him. But once again, thank you so much. We could not do this without you, the voices of Vera. And yeah, peace. Hope you guys enjoy.
See you guys.
See ya. Hope you guys enjoy. And I'll make sure that my raid goes through before I cut the stream because I suck at raiding. Yes, we raided. Let's go. All right, thank you guys so much. His Twitch here. Actually, that's a good idea. Let me before I end stream, put the link to his Twitch inside of YouTube chat so you guys can flood him from over there. Thank you. Good. I don't know why I didn't just think of that, but yeah. 1 second. Let's go to his stream. Hold on, I'm gonna turn my volume up so I can hear his reaction.
He hasn't said anything.
I want him to look down and notice. Here, let's put this in YouTube chat. All right, YouTube chat. Yours happened, I think.
Oh, it wasn't showing up. That's weird.
He hasn't noticed yet, I don't think. There it is. All right, YouTube chat. You guys see it? I'm going to pin the comment. All right. Thank you guys so much. Truly appreciate it. You guys show him some love. He just went from 0 people, well, 1 person in chat, which was probably him. So appreciate you guys. He's an awesome guy. You guys will like him. Thank you guys so much and peace. There he is.
I don't know why it didn't work the first time. See you guys.
Oh, yeah, I see you. It looks like you rated